So this time we have an annual report by the Public Arts Commission. This is one of the reports that is required on a yearly basis where they can send it in writing. They can make a presentation of their report. So at this time, I'd like to call on the chairperson for the Public Arts Commission.
Good evening, Board of County Commissioners. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Excellent. Good evening, Board of County Commissioners, County Manager Diario, and guests. I am Gaurav Gupta, the Chair of the Public Art Commission. It is a pleasure to present the Mecklenburg County's Public Art Overview to you today. Next slide, please. Today's presentation will include an overview of the Public Art Commission, as well as a report on the projects completed in fiscal year 21, one of which you've already seen today, and a sampling of the projects that are underway in fiscal year 22. Next slide, please. The mission of the Public Art Commission is to promote cultural heritage and artistic development, to enhance the county's identity and promote economic development, to add warmth, dignity, accessibility in public spaces, and to expand the experience and participation of the residents with the visual arts. Next slide, please. In collaboration with the Arts and Science Council, the Public Art Commission implements the Public Art Ordinance, which was adopted by the Mecklenburg County in 2002. The ordinance allows for 1% of the projected construction costs at the time the project is included in the county's community investment plan to be used for the selection, acquisition, commissioning, and display of artwork. Community representatives are always included in each artist selection panel. Each project, artists host meetings and workshops with the residents of the community to engage them in the design process. Next slide, please. The Public Art Commission is composed of 9 members, 3 appointed by the county, 3 by the city, and 3 by the Arts and Science Council. The Public Art Commission meets monthly to assist with the review of artist proposals and to approve the ASC contracting with the artists to bring these projects to fruition. Next slide, please. This 9-member board is responsible for selecting the artists for the geographic areas that are determined by the county, and they are based on community investment appropriations that are reviewed and appropriated by the county as well. I now would like to introduce Carla Hansel, the Arts and Science Council Vice President for Public Art, who works closely with the Public Art Commission, as well as the county stakeholders to implement all the projects that are selected by the Mecklenburg County Assets and Facilities, Libraries, and Parks and Recreations. Over to you, Carla.
Thank you, Gaurav. It's an honor to address the County Commission and to share the good work that we create through the county's investment enabled through the Percent of Art Ordinance. This ordinance was codified in December of 2002, and in 1999, the ASC commissioned a study that provided much of the rationale for how a public art ordinance could contribute to creating a more welcoming environment for our libraries, parks, greenways, and municipal buildings, recreation centers, and resource centers. We know that other major metropolitan areas such as Philadelphia, Houston, Austin, Denver, Broward County, Florida have ordinances. However, one of the hallmarks of our ordinance is that we have community involvement, always at the artist selection stage, as well as community engagement prior to the artist finalizing their design. We also utilize a request for qualifications process so that the selected artist is already under contract before they create their concept designs. This enables the design to be more specific to our community because there's more input from the project team, as well as a better understanding of the history and the particular goals of the community. So over the past 19 years, we have created over 160 projects that celebrate the history and contribute to pride of place in Charlotte, Mecklenburg County. Next slide, please. The public dollars are assigned, whoops, we can go back one. The public dollars are assigned based on a project construction expenditures, which is determined by the county. And our staff begins working with the county planners as well as project managers once the allocation is calculated and geographies have been determined. ASC Public Art is also working to increase community capacity building so that local and regional artists who are interested in creating work of public art have an on-ramp into the field. To this end, we have juried 45 artists into our regional artist pool, whom we have assigned to fast-track projects under $100,000. Muralists for Independence Park, as well as artists for Easel Farms Park, have been selected from this pool. Additionally, we've engaged local artists Monique Leck at Druid Hills Park, Maya Godleska at North Regional Recreation Center, and Stephen Hayes at Stewart Creek Greenway. I'll now share the 11 projects that we have underway in various stages of completion. Next slide, please. For American Legion Memorial Stadium, Simon Donovan and Ben Olmsted are utilizing the fence area as seen from Charlottetown Avenue to create a transparent relief imagery in linear form. This artwork creates a sequential depiction of soldiers from various branches of the military. Each of the vertical slats is 3/16 of an inch for a length of 51 feet. The depicted members of the military demonstrate diversity of race and gender, including a scene of a reunion of a soldier and a child. This artwork will be installed at American Legion Memorial Stadium beginning March 22, and it will be lit at night. This contributes also to the history of an important landmark in Charlotte that was constructed originally to memorialize the soldiers from World War I. The stadium was dedicated in 1936, and interestingly, Franklin Delano Roosevelt helped dedicate it and gave his famous Green Pastures speech to provide hope as the nation was recovering from the Great Depression. Next slide, please. For Druid Hills Park in Charlotte's West End, artist Monique Leck is creating a 24 by 9-foot porcelain wall tile at the park shelter. The name of the artwork is Love Never Loses Its Way Home. Central to the mural is a tree, which represents a growing and thriving community. The wall incorporates images representing the history of evolving Druid Hills. A street mural will also be created for the road that bifurcates the park, which will represent water that nourishes the community. This artwork will be installed in July of 2021. Next slide, please. Independence Park is the first public park developed in Charlotte, Mecklenburg in 1900. At that time, Charlotte had only 20,000 residents, and John Nolan, a famous landscape architect student from Harvard, who studied with Frederick Law Olmsted, created the first plan for this park. Over the years, this historic park has undergone many revisions. The west and south side of the Armory building facing Charlottetown Drive and the baseball facility has been identified as the site for a public art mural, which will acknowledge the historical significance of the park, celebrated the beloved green spaces, and connect it to the neighboring communities as well as the nearby urban environments. We've selected 5 artists from the local regional artist pool. They are completing their concept designs and will be shared with the team as well as with one of our Public Art Commission members, and we'll be selecting the winning entry later this month. We anticipate that the installation will be completed by late autumn of 2021. Next slide, please. The new main library will be an architecturally distinctive state-of-the-art facility which will be a knowledge center and public commons. This facility will provide the resources of a 21st century library. Internationally renowned Snøhetta, along with Clark Nexon, have created the architectural plans. The grand lobby wall is identified as the location for the public artwork. Artist Tiff Macy from Detroit has been selected to create the large wall relief that will draw from our cultural histories, processes, techniques, and materials. She is a graduate of Cranbrook Academy and has been exhibited in many museums. Her work, despite its wide range of expressions, remains informed by jewelry design. Next slide, please. Artist John Grade from Seattle, Washington is creating a large sculpture constructed of purple heartwood, aluminum steel that represents the stem of an aquatic plant for the newly created Marsh Park which extends Little Sugar Creek Greenway 2.2 miles from I-495 to the President James K. Polk site. The form of the sculpture combines abstracted elements from the microscopic cross-sections of growing sedges in Marsh Park. The perforated body of the sculpture will filter light to create compelling shadows over the park's overlook, an area adjacent to a variety of living sedges, along with related grasses and mallows. This sculpture will be installed on March 30th. Next slide, please. The Northeast Community Resource Center is constructed in the former North Park Mall and is the second of 5 resource centers that are bringing Mecklenburg County to you so that locations are more convenient to customers. This facility will house several health and human service agencies. The artwork will be a welcoming statement at the front of the facility. We sought artists who would be capable of responding and addressing trauma-influenced design to better serve the well-being, health, and dignity of the customers. Nova Yang, who's from Los Angeles, is under commission to create a concept design, and her community engagement will be forthcoming. She'll take the project all the way through the various stages of design, and the anticipated completion date is late 2022. Next slide, please. 2 artists have been selected for the North Regional Recreation Center located in Cornelius. The exterior brick facade is the site for a mural by artist Maya Godleska that will take inspiration from the town of Cornelius and the programs offered by the facility. The 20-foot diameter silo is also, next slide, please. Or I guess, yes, we can keep it on that one, sorry. The 20-foot diameter silo is the site for an integrated lighting design project by artist Jill Ann Holt, which incorporates colorful interactive lighting into the architectural details of the silo. This silo will house an interior water slide, and the installation of both works of art is slated for May, June of this year. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Cliff Garden from Los Angeles is fabricating a landmark sculpture for Pearl Street Park that addresses the park's significant history, serving as one of the first parks that was open to Charlotte's African-American residents during the days of segregation. The park also served as a practice field for Second Ward School's football team. The intent of this artwork is to be fully integrated into the park to serve not as just a memorial, but also to reference the community who still remembers the park's impact on their lives. The artwork pays tribute to the neighbors of Brooklyn, which was the center of social, economic, and religious life that, in the words of a former resident, was forged on the anvil of segregation. Garten utilized first-person interviews from the Levine Museum of the New South exhibition, Once a City Within a City, for the phrases and quotes that will be incorporated into this beacon sculpture, which will be lit from within. The installation is anticipated to be completed in June of this year. Next slide, please. Artist Stephen Hayes will be creating a gathering place at the trailhead of Stewart Creek Greenway at State Street. His design incorporates 5 sculptures, which are inspired by the dandelion seed. The stem of each seed will incorporate words gathered from residents who participated in community engagement. Additionally, he will incorporate the date of September 4th, 1957, along with the names of the 4 children that integrated Charlotte Mecklenburg schools. The benches will also provide a place to rest and converse. The anticipated installation date for this project is June 2021. Next slide, please. Project One Studio, the artist team of Kyle Perry and Adam Buente, are under contract to create a lighting design project for a 300-foot-long tunnel that will connect 2 greenway sections and will be 30 feet beneath the I-277 express lanes. The artist will be presenting a concept design to the Public Art Commission later this spring, and the anticipated completion date is winter of 2021. Next slide, please. In 2001, the county purchased a 90.6-acre working farm in Mint Hill to create a park designed to serve the residents within a 15-mile drive from the park. The planners are intending to create a nature-based park with many activities. Additionally, 1/3 of the park will be devoted to a community garden. Local artist Meredith Connolly, who recently created a light installation at the Whitewater Center, has been selected to design and install a permanent artwork for the park. Next slide, please. Now I will go on to report about the 4 projects that we've completed beginning this fiscal year from July 1st to present. Next slide, please. The Lotta Plantation Nature Preserve has a sculpture that was installed last July by Seattle-based artist Buster Simpson. He's installed a sculpture entitled Divining for the new Lotta Plantation Nature Preserve, which is located in Huntersville. His sculpture is based on an instrument called a dowsing or divining rod. The act of dowsing has been practiced since the 1500s. Twigs or metal rods shaped like wishbones, Ys or Ls, are used to indicate or divine the location of desired hidden elements, especially subterranean water. The gimbal-mounted sculpture responds to the flow of the wind. As a wind vane, the bearing mechanism allows for a 360-degree rotation and a limited vertical movement similar to the actions of a dowsing rod. Divining suggests the process of investigation and discovery for art and science, as well as the importance of water for sustaining life. Next slide, please. Jim Gallucci has created a whimsical canopy titled Open Book, Open Mind, which functions as a passageway to the South County Regional Library. The South County community residents selected the title of the artwork. Staff chose 19 book titles of diverse authors and books to offer a glimpse into the vast world of reading for all ages. At night, floodlights inside the canopy illuminate it, and during the day, as light is cast through the panels, laser cut words are projected onto the plaza. This artwork was installed last July. Next slide, please. Eastway Regional Recreation Center is sited on a 90-plus acre wooded park property that serves as a gathering place for community. The Recite studio artist team of Norman Lee and Shane Albritton have installed Nested Hive. And we've heard more information about this from Commissioner Rodriguez McDowell, but this sculptural pavilion is formed from an array of cross-sectional slats of Ipe wood connected by steel framework. The artwork is anticipated to become a signature feature of this regional recreation center and will be consistent with the center's themes of healthy living, fitness, and strengthening community. It's located adjacent to the pollinator garden and can serve as a gathering place or an outdoor classroom. And this artwork was completed in December. Next slide, please. The Montreal-based artist collective Daily Tusslijors has created a custom collaborative musical instrument for First Ward Park. 3 discs can be played either a note at a time, or when one balances perfectly in the middle, a melody is played. Cooperative behavior is rewarded by more melodic sounds, as up to 3 people can play on these discs. And if each person is balanced, it will create a harmonic tune that is really enjoyable. So this installation is designed to be enjoyed by all ages and abilities, and encourages a sense of play and connection. Fortunately, it does allow for the social distancing that is required during COVID, but we all look forward to a time when we're past this pandemic and that we can all gather again safely in public. This artwork was completed in December and the landscaping is underway. I really want to thank you all for the opportunity to present our completed public art projects, as well as works in progress during this fiscal year. We believe that public art serves as a catalyst for connectivity, helping to bond people to places and to one another. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have at this time.
Thank you for such an awesome report. If you have questions, we'll start with Commissioner Powell never wants to go first. Commissioner Leek.
Chairman, could we get a sum total of that artwork, please?
Okay, I will ask that they provide that, but it's based on the percent of each project that the county develops.
I know that, but I was wanting to know how much have we paid thus far for all of that artwork.
Okay, then we'll ask that they provide that because I'm sure they don't have it tonight.
That's good. Fine. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, Commissioner Jarrell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just want to say thank you for such a fantastic presentation. I appreciate the visibility to that. I really don't have any other comments. It was just great job, and keep up the great work. Thank you for the presentation.
Commissioner Meyer.
Thank you for the presentation. Beautiful art. I love that we do this and support it. Thank you so much.
Commissioner McDowell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Carla and Gaurav. I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name. I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time to come and present this to us. And thank you for what you do. You guys, in case you don't know, Carla is the one who's the wizard behind the words that I bring you. She gives me all that information and the artwork and everything. So she's my partner in crime in this. So, but I wanted to say thank you to the 2002 Board of County Commissioners for adopting this policy in 2002, because I think it's really important for our community. And I think that it adds value and pride of place that I think is really hard to quantify. And so I really appreciate that. I also wanted to encourage my colleagues and the general public to go to these engagements that the artists do when they are preparing these artworks. And so I've attended a couple of them, and the artists you really can capture or can understand where the artist is coming from. And it really enhances your appreciation for the artwork when you can interact with the actual artist and you can see your neighbors and community members interacting with the artist. And the artist usually asks for you to bring things if you live in the area of where the art is being made. And so bring bits of story and things like that. So it's really a very cool engagement with the public. And then third, I just really did want to ask the question because I think it's a very common question and a misunderstanding. But can you help us understand a little bit why some of the public artworks look very simple and they cost a lot, and then some other artworks look really complex and their price tags aren't as huge? And I know that the cost comes from the 1% of the overall project, but is it related to the end artwork or not? Do you know what I mean? Because maybe, a certain project has a huge budget and the artwork, it doesn't mean that the artist is using that many materials that cost so much more or something like that to make a bigger art piece or more expensive art piece. Can you just explain how that works?
So yes, I will take a stab at it, and I know Gaurav will also have some insights as well because he's an architect. So a lot of our projects, they go through a rigorous design process, and that is one of the questions that the Public Art Commission always looks into about getting value for the money that has been invested by the county, and that will, and then we always create the artwork so that it will at least last 20 years, along with having a maintenance plan. So while some of artwork can look fairly simple, it might really have really complex engineering that's behind it. And then also some of the materials that may look like it's not so expensive could in fact be expensive in terms of creating, what it is. So for example, like the dowsing rod, the divining, that actually is a very complex sculpture. it's not really fair to just show it in a still format, because it really does have really graceful movements, almost like a bird, and then it does spin, on, at a 360 angle. He actually had to use engineers from Boeing to help him determine, how to create that bearing. So there was a lot of complex engineering that went into the planning of that sculpture. And that was actually the third or fourth design that he came up with for his concept. Originally, he was going to do something that was more affixed to the building, that was going to incorporate water. So he completely changed his concept to be able to do something that responds to the site, the importance of water, and then also had a nod to the Raptor Center, which is nearby in Huntersville. So we were really pleased ultimately with how it came up. It's an elegant and a seemingly simple sculpture, but highly complex in terms of its engineering and enabling it to work in a kinetic fashion. So that's just an example. Anything you want to add, Gaurav?
Sure, thank you, Carla. The one other thing I want to make sure we mention is that the Public Art Commission also reviews the detailed cost estimate of every piece of art that is presented to us. Included in that cost estimate is not only the cost of the tangible items that we're going to talk to you about, which is the cost of the materials, but it also has a cost of the fee for the artist. And we make sure that 85% or more of that project fee is actually used on the artwork. And that's a very important point for us, so that we're not paying a larger or higher fee to each of the artists, and it doesn't vary by industry standards. We make sure we review that. Carla made a really good point on the materiality of the sculptures that you see. In some cases, we've seen a lot of mosaic pieces and artwork that looks simple and looks like the artist, all they did was break some tile and paste it. But when you look at it in detail, each tile had an individual screen print and artwork that was given to them by the member of the community, whether it was photographs from their family or old photographs of that neighborhood as it existed in their memory growing up. And so screen printing on 300 pieces of tile to create an artwork was a very complex process. So, looking at a photograph is very deceiving. And so, as Carla said, when you go visit these pieces of sculpture, you really do get a sense of the complexity and an understanding of that sculpture. I hope we answered a little bit of a question for you.
Thank you. That really did answer my question. I really appreciate that. So thank you very much.
Okay, Commissioner Powell.
Welcome.
Thank you. I especially love the Druid Hills art. So, because I was writing notes on every slide, and I thought, I love that one. And, kind of piggybacking on what Commissioner Rodriguez McDowell was asking about the expense, because I have seen the artwork at Loudoun Nature Preserve in person several times, and it's shocking to see the price. So thank you for the explanation. But on the Northeast Community Resource Center, when you're spending close to $500,000 on your art budget, does your committee talk about, maybe not spending it all on one piece? Like, could you have multiple pieces at one site?
So we really carefully work with the artists and the project team to determine the best location and also how the budget is going to be spent. We had pretty clear direction from the project team that they wanted to create a place that could be a gathering space and also serve as an outdoor classroom. So it became pretty clear that we would need to consolidate our funds to be able to create that type of pavilion that's called, that is nested Hive. And there's a lot, it's just not the artwork. There's a really complex foundation that's beneath the artwork. It was individually fabricated, and it took like over a week to construct it and put it together on site piece by piece. Each of the pieces was coated, and so a lot of painting was included in the fabrication. So while it may look like it might be something that would be simple to create, in fact, it really wasn't simple and that there's a lot like beneath the ground that you don't even see that contributes to the cost, as well as the lighting. There are a lot of costs just to get the work to be able to pass an engineer's stamped seal of approval that it's going to withstand the elements. We also had to have it reviewed by Rights and Disabilities, which is really essential to ensure that it's accessible to all residents and people of all abilities. And then we also had to be sure it wasn't a habitable structure. There's just lots of architectural types of things that are that we have to do. It's not just art; it's also engineering and architecture. When we
I understand. Yeah, I understand. I think we're talking about two different projects. Like you're talking about Eastway Rec Center, and I'm talking about the Northeast Community Resource Center that hasn't been done yet. So,
okay.
Yeah.
So with that, yeah. So it's a large appropriation because the appropriation for redoing that entire facility is very high. So our ordinance allows 1% of the investment to go toward public art. So because it's a large budgeted item, that's why the budget for the artwork is so high.
I understand that part. So this is my question is, like, I see this slide in front of me and it looks like it's going to take up the whole front of the building, the art. But does it have to be that way? Could it be more than one different art piece?
It could be, yes. And we do get feedback from the project team. We get feedback from the Public Art Commission, who has to sign off on all of the designs. So it's really, we work really hand in hand with the county to determine what would be best for the constructed project.
Carla.
That's good. That's good to know. And please invite us to these. I would love to hear what the community says about different projects. If we have time to squeeze that in, it would be nice to get invited. Thank you for your work. That concludes my comments. Thank you.
All right, Commissioner Cotham.
Oh, thank you very much. I love the presentation, and I have always loved public art. I have always loved it. I remember in 2012, I was invited to go to the opening of the one in honor of Susan Burgess, a city councilwoman. I think it was called Ascendus, is the name of that public art. And it was for her legacy. She was the one who drove the Democratic National Committee to bring their convention to Charlotte, and she passed away, and that public art was in her honor. I remember there was a beautiful plaque erected there talking about it. So my question is, and I have seen a lot of the public art, do we have plaques at each one with a little bit of a history and whatever? So I really don't know the answer to that. It looks like you're nodding yes.
Yes, absolutely. We always make sure that there's signage, and that enables whoever is visiting the artwork to have a little bit more insight into it, know the artist's name, know that it was commissioned by the county and the Public Art Commission and ASC, know the materials. And then sometimes we even, we're considering ways of making it more accessible, and figuring out how we might be able to do podcasts and do things that, make it more accessible in a digital format. So we're not finished with signage and how we're going to promote it yet.
Pat, you muted yourself if you were still making comments.
Okay, all right. Thank you for answering that. My last question is, do you have any way that a person who is blind or just, could experience it, anything that they could feel, or smaller models? Do you have anything like that?
So actually, this is something that we would like to work on with Rights and Disabilities, because they very much focus on people that might be sight impaired by having, literal descriptions, verbal descriptions of what an artwork looks like. And they're, are national experts there. Our county really has one of the national experts. And I would love to talk to her more about, how we could make it more accessible for visually impaired individuals. So that's something on our list.
Pat, were you still talking? Because you muted yourself.
I didn't touch it. I don't know what happened. I didn't touch it, but nevertheless, I was able to hear it, and I hope that you can. I remember some years ago, I did a thing with the Lions Club in Mint Hill where I was, they blindfolded me and I had to experience a lot of things, going to the store and everything with a stick and blindfolded. And it really made me think about a lot of things like this, that how persons with, with a limited sight, how they miss so much. So I hope that you can do something like that. And I'm sure the Lions Club will, especially the one that in Mint Hill that's very active, would be helpful. But thank you very much. That concludes my comments, Mr. Chairman. Now I will unmute myself.
All right, Commissioner Scarborough.
Yes. Are you asking me whether I have anything to add?
Yes.
I was very elated with the pictures of the artwork, and I think that that's going in the right way. Otherwise, I don't have anything else to say.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Altman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Coming from a pretty small town that was not cosmopolitan, it really is amazing to me, the investment that, the county, governmental unit has made to public art. It's so beautiful, so striking and varied. It's really incredible to me. And it tells me that Mecklenburg County is a world-class city, that, I feel like prospective businesses, I think it's a huge draw and attraction, and it really does create, placemaking in a very powerful way, and really does, tell the nation and the world that we are a world-class community. I didn't know that in 2002, the County Commission created an ordinance providing that 1% of every project would go to public art. So that's good for me to know. If residents want to have a little more knowledge or input into the process of how these dollars get spent, Carla or Madam Manager, where and how would they plug in that way?
Public Arts Commission.
I'll defer to Carla.
Right. So we do try to publicize all of our community engagement activities that take place. And then we're always looking for residents to serve on our artist selection panel. So oftentimes we go to neighborhood associations to ask for recommendations there. But, we definitely want that public input from residents that reside near where the artwork will be created.
And where do you advertise? Like, how can people see your advertisements?
It goes in the various newsletters of the neighborhoods. That's usually the main way that we advertise at this point. Certainly if I hesitate to say this, but I also want to be accessible. If people really want to, we're going to be posting like forthcoming projects. If they really want to be involved in, the selection, they can reach out to me or some of my the people on the public art team to put their name down that they would like to serve on an artist selection panel.
Thank you so much.
All right. Let me start by saying how exciting these projects look. In fact, I can't wait to visit some of them in person. Pat mentioned one piece that was dedicated on behalf of Susan Burgess. It is located near the entrance to the airport. I call it the Leaning Tower of Pisa, because when you see it, it's tilted, but it won't fall over. But it's a really nice piece. I was there for the installation of that one as well as the one in Romere Bearden Park. So it's really an exciting time to go and listen to the artists talk about the piece that they designed. What I'm hoping will happen, and you may already have this, is that we can develop some kind of location finder. There are so many pieces of art throughout this community, but it's just trying to figure out where they are. So if we could figure out some way to publish that so that people, in fact, especially during COVID, when you're social distancing, you want to go on a tour in your own city, then you can tell people where to go find these pieces. The description, if you don't get there for the installation, I've always found helpful at the various locations where the artists put down what it is that they have created. But, and another way, of course, you have input is that we get to make appointments to the Art Commission. And so making people aware when those appointments become available. And what I find is there are a lot of people want to be involved, but for what these guys have been able to create, I'm just fortunate enough that we've been smart enough that people have some background, that we're just not putting people on these boards and commissions, which is one of the complaints by the leadership, is having some background and experience and knowledge so that you can tell whether or not they're paying the right amount of money for the project or looking at the scope of the project or something like that. But thank you so much for this has certainly been a highlight of this board to have this presentation made tonight. So thanks again. So at this time, we will move to our manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have 2 items under my manager's report tonight. The first is going to be a presentation by Sonia Harper, our Director of Criminal Justice Services, who's going to give the board an update on our pretrial release program and some of the issues that we're facing as a result of COVID. And we are going to ask you to consider approving at the end of the presentation